Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station travel show with Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team and publishers of Big Blend Magazines. We've got our variety publication, Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, and our Parks and Travel magazine. And you can check it all out at BigBlendMagazines.com. And speaking of magazines, one of our longtime contributors is a travel writer, Debbie Stone, and she is back on the show today to talk about her incredible journey. I'm going to say this amazing jaw-dropping experience in Monument Valley National, not a national park. She makes sure in her article that it's not a national park, but it's Monument Valley Park. It's in the Navajo Nation. It's right between the Utah and Arizona border. And you can see her article in the January-February issue of Parks and Travel magazine. You can also see it right up on nationalparktraveling.com. Just go to our expert contributors. You'll find Debbie there, and you'll see all her articles in that magazine as well. And also, I mean, she's here on the show. We like to call her Fire Monkey because you earned that title, didn't you, Debbie?
Oh, it is stuck completely with you guys. It is completely stuck.
It's never going, well, it's that or guinea pig, right?
Well, yeah, and I'd much rather be a fire monkey than a guinea pig. So, you know, well, if I have to choose, you can call me the fire monkey for as long as you want.
Well, you earned that in Bhutan, right? It was Bhutan that gave
absolutely,
you the
absolutely. See? I learned that in Bhutan, and the guinea pig came from Myanmar. So take your pick. They told me that I was this, and then they told me that I was that. But I'm believing I'm more of a fire monkey based on what that all stands for. So,
well, with 2020
you graduated.
Yes,
you may have started out as a guinea pig and ended up as a fire monkey.
I looked up Chinese New Year for 2020. It's the year of the rat, and that's kind of close to the guinea pig in a way. Like, just saying.
That is true. It is kind of in that. I don't know, like that
rodent,
the rodent family, right?
I was just thinking, is it the year of the monkey? No, but it could be your year. I mean, it seems like you've got all these awesome adventures, and I'm looking back on, 2019 and all these amazing places you've been, and you're about to do more. And Monument Valley, I was looking at your photos, reading your article, and I'm just like, we have to go there. We were so close to it this year on our tour, and as many people know, Nancy and I travel full-time going to parks and documenting parks across the country. And Monument Valley, like I started to say, it was a national park. I'm so used to saying national parks, but you talk about this is not a national park because this is really on the Navajo Nation, which is...
Yeah, it's a Navajo-owned tribal park, and they have, I think the tribe has 6 of them, like I believe Canyon de Chelly, I think the Antelope Canyon, maybe Four Corners. So they have, it's not a national park, but it is a park, and it is, owned by the Navajo, and it's on their territory, and they are the largest Native American territory in the U.S., and the park has about 92,000 acres. It's vast. Wow. Of course, visitors don't typically see 92,000 acres when they go. They see truly, I think, the heart or the crux of Monument Valley. But this landscape is like no other. It's really amazing. It's not really a valley. It's kind of this landscape that it's kind of flat, but then they've got these huge, ginormous buttes and these kind of strange and otherworldly looking creations, and it's just you just are, I don't know, mesmerized by the colors and the shapes and the sizes of them. It just looks like these things are stretching to the sky, and the sky is trying to meet them, and it's just it truly is a terrific place. But the whole area is not only this great, wonderful, beautiful scenery, but it's very there's history there, there's culture there, and then of course there's Hollywood there.
Right, I know. One thing was interesting with the red, because you talked about that red oxide in the rock formations and the sandstone. You were in Namibia and did that desert, that big, desert. Did it kind of bring you back to that area?
in a way, in Namibia, they have the dunes,
Yeah.
the huge, massive sand dunes, and but the colors were very, very similar. And it's and especially when you see it, whether it's sunrise or sunset, it's breathtaking, and it becomes all the different colors that you can possibly think of, those purples and pinks and oranges and the blues, and just everything that lighting does. And it's one of the things people get up early and they want to see it at sunrise, and then everybody runs out at sunset and is trying to capture it. It truly is breathtaking, and it is a little bit of a it is a little bit of a haul to get there, because it really is, like, quote unquote, not near anything, but
Right.
it is in that area where you can see all those it is near, not too far from the Canyon de Chelly and the whole that whole
Petrified
interesting,
forest.
native, and also just all this Native American cultural influence in that area. So if you go, it's kind of like make it a whole thing. A lot of people also do it, and they stretch out and they go into Canyonlands, or they go into Grand Canyon, and they do the whole tour there. But it really is. It's hard not to be awestruck by these formations, and some of them look like they're really fragile, and some of them are like these huge, massive, mesa buttes and sandstone masterpieces. And it reminds you very much. People will look at these are iconic images, and they will recognize them. They might not know exactly where they are, but they will recognize them because they are the distinctive landscape of the American West. And when Hollywood came a calling, they're the ones that brought, I think, a lot of attention to this area, and people had not really known about them very much, or even had even heard of this area. And they basically brought it to the attention, I think, of the American public as well as international, because people do watch movies all over the world. So
Right. And so this was John
Especially
Ford.
with the Duke.
Yeah, the
yeah,
Duke. I know you got
the
John Wayne.
Duke,
I mean, we're
the
last
Duke.
conversation we were saying Albuquerque, the Duke.
Yeah,
Here we go.
that's
But
right.
it's a whole different thing. But John Ford's Point is where you say that's one of the places to go. You go get that selfie, that
Yep,
Instagram photo, right?
yep.
But this comes from Stagecoach being filmed out there, but also, there's always someone who spurs it out of getting Hollywood to their town. I know when we were in Springfield, Kentucky, our good friend Stephanie McMillan got Hollywood there. We see it in all these different places. Albuquerque did the same kind of thing, right?
Oh,
Atlanta,
yeah,
all
absolutely.
these,
Santa Fe, all over the
yeah,
place.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, your area is like a hub, and it's like, okay, so, and here in Yuma, Arizona, where we are today, yeah, I mean, 310 to Yuma, babies, all of
Yep.
that.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's
But
right.
so we got all this movie history, and there's sand dunes here, and and it is about that backdrop, that iconic backdrop. I know
Oh,
Steve Schneikert, our Hollywood historian, is always talking about, like, our parks and public lands have really set the scene for so many American classics, and this area for sure. But there's always that entrepreneur who realized
mhm.
we need this to happen, because once Hollywood gets a hold of it, then millions of people get to see this region and go, well, I wonder where that is. And I know, like, Natchitoches, Louisiana, Nancy, they have two film
Hmm.
trails in the
Yes.
most historic city in
Yes.
Louisiana. So this
Hmm.
happens for tourism. So that seems to be also for this area.
Yeah, and I think, I remember when I did a story a couple of years back about Las Vegas, New Mexico, that
Yes.
became a huge, and you can take a tour and go around and see, where all these films and TV shows are and were filmed at. But this, was kind of started by just this one man. His name was Harry Goulding, and he had this little trading post there. And it was not the best time in the mid 1920s. The Depression had really done its number on not only the Navajo Nation, but the trading post and business. And he heard on the radio that Hollywood was looking for a location for a film and for a western. And he thought, this is a great place. And
Yeah.
so he actually, he drove to LA. He walked into United Artists Studio. He talked his way through the receptionist into seeing
Right on.
director John Ford, and he was like, look at these pictures, look at these photos, and the valley, this area would be the perfect backdrop for your movie. And Ford was very convinced, and he went on eventually to use, I think he used the area for for 9 more films, parts of it, pieces of it, and so the famous stars came. Word of mouth came. Other directors came, and it's been in several movies, lots of commercials. They've filmed different things there that and people recognize it, like, oh, I saw that site, I know what that, but they may not know where exactly it is. They just know it's been filmed somewhere in maybe the Southwest, and and then when you actually are there, you're like, whoa, it's pretty amazing.
I love that feeling where you're just kind of, you do the jaw drop, and and it's humbling. It's a really
It is.
humbling experience of, you really understand ancient history. I mean, ancient natural history and ancient
Yes.
people history, and it all comes together in one place, and you're like, wow. And I thought my
Yes.
phone was important. You
And
No.
you feel so you're so dwarfed by these monuments, and you feel really small, and you're just looking at this and going, this is Mother Nature, working
Yeah.
away, and it's just,
Mhm.
I don't know, you're humbled by this natural beauty, and the way people, you go into the park, and there's a self-drive route, and you can do that, and you go through, and you can stop along the way, and that's wonderful because you can get to all the landmarks. But I had heard, and after doing some research, that the way to really get into this park, further into this park, into what they call the more restricted areas, which are the areas you just can't get to on this one route that they allow you to go on, was to do a tour. And only Navajo companies can offer this tour. So you're getting a Navajo guide, who has connection, and who has what I consider, I think, ownership in that respect, with the area. And so they can provide such a wealth of information that you can't get when you're just driving along and looking at the landmarks and maybe reading something. But once again, we talked about doing tours, whether they're walking tours or whatever they are. But it's just, you get so much more, and especially with somebody who has a vested interest.
Yeah, so you went on one, and I want to give some websites real quick. NavajoNationParks.org is a website to go to for the parks, all of them in general, and they've got a wealth of information on there as well. But also, I know that you went on Monument Valley Safari, and it's
Yes.
monumentvalley.safari.com to go check out what
Right.
they do. But it was interesting because you learned the geology, the history, when you saw pictographs with them, but also went to what's called a Hogan. And I didn't, you know what? I realized that I've seen them in another part of the Navajo Nation, and I didn't know what I
Yes.
was looking at until you were talking about it. And I've actually walked inside, and I don't know,
Yep.
explain what a Hogan is, and then, because then you got to have this cultural connection of understanding more of the Dene, or the Navajo lifestyle.
Right, and it's basically a traditional dwelling. It's ceremonial. They separate them by male and female in terms of the type of hogans, but some of them are logs, some of them are stones. They're covered with mud. They're covered with sod or dirt, or
It's like a hut.
yes, and but it's a very nicely constructed one. The male hogan they use a lot for ceremonies. The female is more, I don't know. They told me that it was like more of a permanent one where you can house a family in, and more practical in that respect. So they have hogans around, and we did walk into a few, and one of them had this woman who was there, and she was weaving. And
Cool.
it was fascinating to watch her weave, and she was using some stems from the sumac plant, and so we saw a lot of handmade baskets. We saw some rugs, some moccasins, and some other things, and they showed us about the grinding stone for making cornmeal. And so it was kind of nice to see traditional ways, and the Navajo are very conscious of and strive to keep their traditions alive, both the physical traditions, the oral traditions, the crafts, the art, the music, and so it was nice, because I think many people don't know a lot. They know only maybe what they see in movies, or and so to be actually able to see it in person, and to have that experience, I think is it's a form of education for people, and in a way that I think people respond to.
It's respectful too. And you saw, really, like you had Bobby Take You. He was your guide and
Right.
explained the plants and how they use them.
Ah, yes.
And also the geology and how the red oxides in this and understand that. But you also got to see really a father and daughter do the music
Yes.
side. Bobby did too. He played the Native American flute, and then
Yes. And it was
Ayani Ba is,
wonderful.
I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, Ayani
Ayani,
Ba.
I think it's Ayani Baba. I think
Yeah.
that is how, and her father Anthony.
Hmm.
Her mother was there as well, but they actually teach the hoop dancing in the school, and so
Oh
their
wow.
daughter was learning it, and she's 10 years old, and so she did a hoop dance, and her father accompanied her on a drum, traditional drum made of elk skin, and we were in one of the wonderful arches. We were in Big Hogan, and it is like a natural amphitheater, so the sound is just gorgeous. And it was this young girl, and she was so so intense about she was so passionate about doing it the right way, and
Mm.
she could see that she had been practicing and she'd been studying it, and her parents were very proud, and it was a delightful experience, and it was wonderful. Here we were, there was just, I think there was like maybe 5 of us in that little tour group, and to have this private performance in this incredibly beautiful place, it really meant a lot.
Mm.
Nice.
Well, speaking of their history too, um, and we experienced some of this when we were in Gallup, New Mexico this year,
Mm.
and Gallup has been on my bucket list for years, and we got to go to the nightly. They do like a nightly Native American dances outside the old courthouse there, and it's free for the public, and you are
Nice.
invited to photograph, which a lot of times you're not. You must ask
Right.
permission. Like in Santa Fe, do not point your camera at the Palace of Governors
No.
without
No.
permission. Do not do that anyway.
It's
But
a
it is out
no.
of respect. It's out of respect,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so anyway, that's the same. When we were there, they also have. It is one of their Gallup was named like one of the most patriotic American cities, and
Mm.
they have this veterans walkway, a veterans memorial walkway there, and a lot of it is dedicated to the Navajo code talkers. And I mean, it's only 3 hours, 3.5 hours from where you were, so it's got to
Right.
have this shared history. And I know a lot of people stay in Gallup to go out to Monument Valley, but I know you stayed in the valley. I mean, that I can't wait to talk about the hotel experience, because like that is like the room with the view. I'm like, dude, seriously jealous, but like that I want that. But when the Navajo code talkers, you went to the Visitor Center Museum. This is something I always want people to have at a forefront. It's like the Tuskegee Airmen. A lot of people
Yes.
know that
Yes.
African American history are gentlemen who flew for our country in World War One and
Yes.
Two, and so it's the same thing. World War II, the Navajo code talkers, how much they sacrificed for us, and what they did.
It's amazing. I think people have heard of them, and some people know more, and there's been movies on and about them, and some documentaries and things. But this is something that they say that without this code, they don't know whether the war would have been won in that particular region within the Pacific. And it was a code that kind of confounded the Japanese. They could not figure it out for the life of them, and they tried and tried, but it baffled them. And so there's in the museum is they show you the code, they show you the words, and how it was communicated, and then there are pictures and photos of some of the some of the code talkers from the Navajo region there, and it's fascinating. I spent a long time just looking at it and studying it and reading about it, and I think there's not very many of them left.
I don't think.
Is there any left? I think maybe the last one passed away. I don't remember.
Yeah, several months ago.
Yeah.
And almost probably by now it's over a year, but yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a part of history that I think people don't know, especially younger people probably don't know much about it, and so this is another opportunity to educate people about not only what went on here in terms of the communication system in the war, but also the contributions that were made by the Navajo Nation.
Absolutely.
You were in Oahu this year, and talking about
Yes.
your 2019 experience. You were in
Yeah.
Oahu, and you went to the memorial. You went to Pearl
Yes.
Harbor, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Valor II Pacific. I'm going to get the name wrong here off the top of my head. The World War II Valor Pacific National Memorial. Am I getting it right?
Right.
Somewhere around there.
Right.
And now that's World War II history. So that has got to connect as you go to these
Yes.
places.
Yes,
You know.
yes, and like I tell everybody, if you, to me, it's history only. History really comes alive when you're actually, when you're there to see it, to touch it, to smell it, to whatever it is. It's like, it just really makes the words in the book come alive, and it's just not this dry description, but you're there and you're seeing it, And to me, if people can make trips or can travel, can do some things to bring history, to make it alive, to show kids that it's not just textbooks,
Yeah. When you're reading a book, and I'm all down for photos and books, obviously, because we publish. But when you're reading a book, the photograph is a lot smaller than you. But when you get to a place like Monument Valley, it's astounding, these places. And
It's
now
like
you're the
saying,
little one, and they're the big one.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like seeing a sequoia tree and you can't hug a tree. You're like,
so it's like the opposite feeling. It's like, oh, look at that little canyon. Then you get there and you're like, uh-oh.
I know, but
Yeah,
I
and
like that because then I feel like I've lost a lot
yes.
of weight. No.
But it's also like nothing nothing is as good as in person. I mean, you can have a beautiful
Exactly.
picture, and then you're there and you're in person, and you're like, oh my gosh, that photo didn't even begin to capture it.
Yeah, right. I know.
Yeah,
And
it
you
could be
never
the
can.
best photo, but
Yeah.
it's smaller.
You
Yeah.
must
Unless
go.
you're in a museum where they do one of those things where the ceiling and the walls are all plastered with one photo, like
Right.
then you're coming close, but then the
Yes.
sights and smells aren't
No.
it's not the same.
No, you're not feeling you're not feeling this wind going by,
Exactly.
rushing by you, and you're not, you're like you said, you're not smelling, you're not, feeling something sensory,
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on too, because we were talking about, the code talkers and, it's in the military history of World War II, but when you think of Monument Valley, those of us who know about it, you have that iconic picture in your head of the three buttes. And I've learned to say butte and not butt. Anyway.
Good girl.
Listen, and I have a thing about
a long
buttes.
time.
I almost feel like I want to actually publish a book just on buttes. I have a thing of buttes and mesas. I know, because I photograph them all the time, and I think they're so interesting about the layers of geology. Yet I'm not a geologist. I just think, geology rocks. But so you got the three buttes. You got the east and west mitten buttes, because they do look like mittens. And then you have the Merrick Butte and the Mitchell Mesa. And the Mitchell and the Merrick are named after what? Ex-cavalry.
They're named after soldiers, ex-cavalry. I think they were prospectors who were coming looking for obviously something, silver, whatever, in the valley. And then, they named them appropriately, in terms of three sisters. It looks like a nun, and then with her students, and then John Ford's Point, of course, and then there's the totem pole, a very thin, tall spire, and there's this one called the Yebashe, which is this, they look like dancers in a troupe, and so it's very descriptive. And we saw so many, how Bobby would point out all these things like, look, what does that look like? It looks like does it look like and it turns out it looks like an eagle, or it looks like an Indian chief or something, and he would like talk to us about that and ask us, if we could see the image and we could see this or this creature and what it was. And then, sometimes you're looking at it and, you might see something totally different,
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I trip out on stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, the artist Bev Doolittle, where she's got.
Yes. Oh,
yes.
gosh.
Isn't that the same thing when you're looking at rocks?
Yes.
I start Joshua Tree, I'm like that. I start seeing faces and everybody's like, what are you smoking? I'm like, I'm not. I see this. Nancy and I do it when we travel through, places. We're always like, look, do you see that dude over there? So it's like, but that's about observancy. And
it changes depending on the lighting and the time of day.
And your own perspective and your own what you're bringing to it.
Yeah, and when we lived in Tucson, we had the Santa Catalinas behind our house.
Oh, yes.
And
Yep.
then I'd drive up every day. I would see this angel face. I mean, she looked like the classical angel
Oh.
mountain. And so I'd always photograph her from all these different angles, and I would talk to her like, "You're the angel of the Northwest Tucson Valley." I had my own
Right.
thing, but there is something about that
Yep.
connection. We've
Yep.
interviewed ladies who remember Anne Bollinger, Nancy, who
Mhm.
read clouds, and it is about
Oh,
what you
yeah.
make of it, and there's signs and symbols that can go with you, and then there's shape-shifting symbols, and
Sure.
I just think
Sure.
there's
It's
something
interesting. Yeah.
magical about it. And the one thing, one of your photographs, you have what looks like, whipped up swirls of treacle, or like some kind of fudge, the bottom of
Yes.
the what
Yes.
I'm talking about, the swirlies,
Yes.
man. I want to
Yes.
eat it.
Yes.
I want to eat it.
Yeah, that was amazing. I think that view was from John Ford's Point, but yeah, it just was like this, like, it was, we were all like going, oh my God, look at that, isn't it? It just like was like, I don't know, it just you wanted to reach out and like grab it and touch it and feel it, and and just it was just, yeah, that was wonderful, and hard to completely capture the moment. I always look at my pictures and I'm like, that looks okay, but oh boy, it looks so much better in person.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing. You can't you can get really close sometimes, but
Yep. Yep.
yeah, you got to be there. And since you
Yes.
were there to take the picture, obviously you're always going to prefer to be there in person.
Yes, and I have the memory, and I
Yeah.
have that in my mind, and but it is a beautiful place, and people don't know also that this is a place that's home as well, to residents, and there are people that have been living there for many years, and anywhere from up to 100 people depending on the season, and there is no running water or electricity, and they farm, and they also create artwork, and so they are living there, and you see them, especially when you go back into some of the restricted areas. There's people, and that's why you do it with a guide. It's a very respectful way of
Because
doing
they're
it.
living their life. It's kind of like Pueblo life,
Yes,
You're saying that they're living
absolutely.
off the land and with the land, and the other part, you stayed at this amazing The View Hotel. I mean, the room with the
Ah,
view. So you're looking out at the beautiful Big
yes.
Buttes, and from your room, like.
Yes, it is. It is. It's the only hotel that's built within the park, and so it's Navajo owned and operated, and it blends in with the environment. And every room,
Awesome.
has this incredible view. It's breathtaking. You go out onto your patio, and the little everyone's got their little deck out there, and you can watch, like I said, sun rising, sunset. It's 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 gorgeous, and it's all authentically Native American in terms of the decor, and there's a lot of crafts and the Navajo rugs and pottery and artwork, and the View restaurant has got all these beautiful glass windows that are all looking out onto that incredible view, and you can try some Navajo inspired dishes, and they've named some things after movie stars, and
Of course,
but
yeah.
you can have one of my things is that blue corn fry bread, which I adore, and
Ooh.
put it with honey, and it's like so good, or the green chili stew, and so it's a great place, and I know there are people that go to the park and they just go and drive the one route, and they're in and out, and they're then they're like ticket off their list kind of thing, but
Yeah,
I think for it's wonderful if you can stay one night or even two. You can really, I don't know, delve into it more, and spend more quality time, and do one of those tours, and just I don't know, soak up that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna go all the way out there, then I say give it its due.
Yeah, and I mean it's because I know Nancy and I, we felt like that. We've done that, just on the tour. If we can do a detour through a park to get to the next destination, we will. But you leave going, I really didn't do it.
Yeah.
And we've done over 130 parks so far on our tour, and
my gosh,
and
that's
some are like
amazing.
that, but you've seen it, you understand the terrain, you do get that semblance, but like when we did Petrified Forest, We ended up sleeping outside the gate because we thought we could get a campsite. Listen, listen to your editors here. Go to the park website before you go and think that you can just go and get a campground. It doesn't happen.
No.
But anyway, so anyway, we ended up, because we were on a long road trip and just doing the drive-through and some walking around and picnic and whatever. And I it was magical. It was one of the best days of my life, honestly, in that park. But Nancy, right?
Yeah.
We need to go back and we need to go sleep
Oh,
under
yeah.
the stars properly
But
there.
we say that about every park.
Yeah, really.
It's
true.
like, the more time you have, the more time you want, and just because you keep discovering and discovering and discovering.
Absolutely. And people want I did mention that there's like, I think there's 2 hikes. We did part of one, but they will go around one of the buttes, the Mitten Butte, and you can walk amongst the landscape, amid the landscape, which is really a nice thing to do. Get out of people can get out of their vehicles. They can, walk and take a little bit of a hike. And it's, I don't know, to me, if you're just going to see something driving through, it's, I don't know, you're missing out. You're
missing out the actual vibe of it. Yeah, it's a nice thing. You need to get out. You need to touch, feel, breathe it in. And I think what's awesome is about staying inside a park, because you can get up in the morning when you want to, and you can. That's
the best.
That is the best, is to stay within the park if you can, and having the hotel. Even the hotel, you have a photo of it on the outside, and it looks like it's kind of like blending into the rocks. Like it's like I'm not, I'm part of it. I'm part of it, and you're going to be part of it.
It's part of the
too.
landscape. Yeah, they wanted to. They really did a wonderful job. I think such a unique place, but they wanted it not to just stand out like a sore thumb, but to really blend in and be a part of the landscape, and make people feel like they were a part of it as well. And it's a very comfortable hotel. It's it has the amenities. You can eat there, you can sleep there, and there's a great trading post there, and there's a museum and visitor center there, and next door. And so everything is kind of there. So that's why I say if people are going to drive that way, and they can just, if they can spend a night. I've been places where I can't spend the night, just sometimes because of I'm under the time gun, so to speak.
Tell me about
it's just
it.
the way it is. But you always feel like it's a tease, and you're like, oh God, I wish I could spend more time.
I know.
Exactly.
Well, you're not that far away, right, from Monument Valley.
No,
you're not that far away. It's all connected. You're in that like heritage landscape, and it's just so magical. And every turn is something different and magical, whether it's the geology, the history, the plant life, the big blue skies, and then I do have to touch on this. I can't leave without talking about the petroglyphs and the pictographs. And these are Anasazi, which we're really talking ancient culture. This is our
very,
ancient
very
peoples.
ancient.
Oh,
yeah, and it was those are pretty vivid, and they're kind of this one in particular, that one, I think it was a running bighorn sheep, I think, was in this like niche, so it was kind of preserved, and it's preserved there because also it's in a restricted area, so you're not going to be seeing it just on your own. You're going to be seeing it with a guide,
so they can be preserved,
find it for you and point it out,
and be protected.
And I love that, and a lot of people don't. I mean, I didn't know for the longest time a petroglyph, pictograph, what was the difference, and it's something that I think people. It's great to understand that there really is a difference. One is using that kind of the pigments, whether plant and animals, and you're putting it almost directly on. You're putting it right on the wall, so it's almost like you're painting. Yeah, and that's the other, you're scratching away, you're removing some of that, what they call desert varnish on the rock, and you're etching away at it. So, but people sometimes don't know the difference, and for a long time I probably kind of put them all together at the same thing.
Exactly, and it goes with
cave art. Cave art.
That's it. It's cave art, and that's that.
Or
rock
I look
art.
at this, but I see this, and I look and I understand it's bighorn sheep. That's the interpretation, but I see dinosaur.
Yeah. No,
boy.
and I mean, once again, those things are also sometimes very subject to who is interpreting them as well. So we were just told that was a bighorn sheep, but you could look at it and see something different.
It's got like 6 legs. One of them.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
full like, okay, wait a minute.
No,
Yeah.
but you
And that's
don't know. There could be another one
yeah.
behind it.
I call that artistic license.
But
No, I
but
call
this
it
is
the antelope, or the sheep was actually moving, and the
mhm.
artist tried
yes.
to capture movement.
Yes. Yes.
You go,
Absolutely.
girl.
Like like an
Hmm.
action thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
such a good point. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I've
But
a
I loved it. I love seeing
Yeah, it's
that kind of
cool.
stuff. It really is petroglyphs and pictographs. I mean, I just
mm,
because you're saying, oh my gosh, this was how many years, hundreds of years, how
Yeah.
long ago was this done?
I don't know.
yeah.
It could be dinosaur. It could be a six-legged dinosaur.
Nancy wants everything to be a dinosaur. She
I
does.
know.
But they are so cool. They are so cool. And it's just so, having been up in that area this year and, we were Canyon de Chelly, we almost got there and I'm like, I'm dying to go to
Oh,
Canyon de Chelly. And,
yeah.
but it's just really fascinating to me, the geology and how ancient it is going up from some of the Colorado parks like Garden of the Gods. We went to Garden of the
Right.
Gods. So did you.
Right.
I mean, we both
Yeah.
we were in the same area, but a hop, skip, and a jump away is this place called Florissant Fossil Beds National Monument. Underknown, just like it's just this hidden
Yeah.
jewel of a national park unit. And here we have petrified redwoods, you know,
My
these
gosh. Mm.
giant thistles on the ground that just spread out.
Mm.
I mean, they're
Right.
just these everything, but at the same time, this geology, and it's like these different. I don't know. It's really, I just when you go to a place like Monument Valley, I encourage people to do the surroundings too, like petrified forest
Right.
and
Mhm.
things, because you'll get this like Bandelier National Monument in your backyard too, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you'll get this idea of how the geology was shaped in an entire region because it was all connected real close at one point.
Absolutely. Whether you're, Mesa Verde, whether you're
Oh
Chaco
yeah.
Canyon, whether you're Canyon de Chelly, whether
Oh
you're Monument
Chaco,
Valley,
yeah.
it is all related in that respect. And it's to me, people when they come to the Southwest, it's there's so much here, and there's so much stuff also that people that don't make the top 10 or whatever it is,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like you say, something that's nearby that's less known, but then you find it and you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, my heart goes into those places, and you just want to,
Yes.
yeah, this is so awesome. Everyone, again, navajonationparks.org is the website for finding out about all the Navajo Nation parks. Also, when you go to get your safari, your guided tour, go to monumentvalleysafari.com. And then when it comes to that amazing hotel with the view, I want the view. Seriously, there's something about hotels with a view, but it just seems like you
uh,
can
Mm.
breathe the air and just be, it is
really.
monumentvalleyview.com. So check it out. Of course, Debbie's article, the Fire Monkeys article, is up on nationalparktraveling.com, also featured in the January-February issue of Parks and Travel magazine. And we want to thank you for joining us, Debbie. Debbie, tell everybody where your next destination is, because you're hopping off the big mainland, aren't you?
I am. We're heading first to Fiji for a little bit, and then we're heading down under to New Zealand for a
Oh,
while.
cool.
So yeah, so I hope to have some good stories from that part of the
How
world.
could you
But
not? How could you
yes,
not? I mean,
no,
my gosh.
it's going to be wonderful. I know it's going to be wonderful. But thank you so much for having me on, and happy holidays to you guys.
Yeah, you too. I know we're
Same
recording
to
this a little bit beforehand, and the other thing too, we're gonna see you in February. That's gonna be like that. We're gonna have to wait a while to talk to Debbie, unless you do
I
like a.
know.
I know we have to call from a coconut shell in Fiji.
Oh,
you
that's
know,
cool.
yeah, yeah, Crab Island Central. No, anyway. So listen, have a wonderful, safe trips,
Thank
and
you.
we're looking
Thank
forward to
you.
our next series of Fire Monkey conversations. Everyone, thank you for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. We air Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. New episodes are posted up, and you can go to bigblendradio.com for all of that, because we're in all kinds of outlets. And we want to play a song, as always, for you, Debbie, and also, of
Oh,
course, for our
cool.
wonderful audience. And this, Everin Ozan is a NAMI award-winning Native American flute player. We've known him since he was a little kid, 9 years old. And this song is called Winter Hawk. And, when I look at Mountain Valley, I mean Monument Valley, I want to fly. Like, I want to be a hawk out
Mm.
there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Monument Valley.
A great bird's eye view, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is so cool. This album is called Images of Winter, and this is when he was 9 years old. And when you hear it, you're not going to believe a 9-year-old created this,
Oh
right?
gosh,
And
unbelievable.
we watched him in Joshua Tree National Park perform, and they had all these lights set up. And as soon as he played, the lights went out. And we've seen we did it in Julian
Mhm.
everywhere. Like we've been, the lights go out, and we've seen like flies land on him while he's performing, and he basically takes his hand, does what he wants, and he's channeling, right? It's just like
Wow,
this crazy, beautiful, amazing artist. So anyway, here it
gifted.
is. Yes, very gifted. Here it is. Winter Hawk. Again, it's from the album Images of Winter by Evan Ozan. You can keep up with him at ozanmusic.com. Take care, everyone.
Oh,
Cool.
fun.